Welcome. We are your hosts, Chris and Tammy.
In this podcast, we dive into the mindset for networking strategies and skills you'll need to build a solid foundation to build a global business.
We've built a multi-million-dollar business and have mentored thousands of people around the globe in the last 25 years. Now we're going to talk about the basic of effective communication. We're talking about, for example, active listening, nonverbal communication, clarity of the message. You know, it's the role of empathy and emotional intelligence. This is so important. So, for example, overcoming barriers and conflict in personalities and, business and professional relationship. You may not think it's relevant, but I assure you that once you start getting up into the income bracket, it's really interesting where a problem that may not have been a problem before could become a problem because of this different personality that are coming out as success is coming out, right? Especially communication in a digital age, social media. I mean, these are all things that's evolved, especially in the past 3 years. I mean, the way we communicate has evolved. It's not that it has changed, it has evolved. Another thing that's important is your presentation skills. And I'm not saying that you need to be really good presenters, but being aware of some of those skills, now you can start working towards them for you to become a more effective presentation. If you happen to be working in multiple markets around the world, you're going to deal with cross-cultural communication, and understanding cultural differences are very, very important, right? And you don't need to know and remember all of this. Again, we want you to be aware, right? The impact of the tone, body language, context, and communication. Using storytelling and, the narrative of effective communication is so important.
So we have 10 skills that we had written down that we feel is very, very important for effective communication. So we're going to go through these 10 skills. And the first one being an attentive listener. And I'm talking really focused listening on the conversation people are having with you, whether it's in your local market or global market, because it's really important to understand where people are coming from.
That is really important. Make proper eye contact. Focus on what they are saying in their expression as they share, because they are going to be revealing a lot of data, information that will be useful for you to be able to attend to as you start communicating. Which brings us to number 2, be concrete and clear. To become an effective communication, you want to make sure that you're precise, right? And that you don't venture too much in tangents to try to impress the person with things that you may not even be sure that it's actually, verified. Right? You want to make sure that it's authentic and that the person that whatever you share with that person could be verified. And if you go across and scoring online and they start reading, content and you just talked about, and you can cross-reference that establishes an enormous amount of credibility, right? So you want to be concrete, you want to be precise, and you want to be very clear, which brings us to number 3, the nonverbal communication. This is absolutely key. Tammy, you go ahead.
Yeah, I remember early on in my career in network marketing, I would go to sessions where the leader would be talking to groups of people, and I would just sit and observe this nonverbal communication connection that's going on and the body language. And it's amazing how people connect without even saying a word in some cases. So I picked up a lot, and I really got to understand the importance of also understanding to read people through just how their facial expression is, their eyes, how they move their bodies, and whether they're uncomfortable, whether they're happy. You can tell immediately when you start to follow this. If you've never really focused on this, I highly recommend to learn nonverbal communication as well, because it's really, really important. It's part of the process of creating that effective communication with people, because people are expressive, and you're going to know right away whether they're happy or they're not happy.
The number 4 is you want to be relaxed, right? And trust me, I'm guilty of that. Sometimes, I'm anxious, you sometimes get into anxieties and trying to communicate a message that you feel is important, or people are not maybe open to listen. The things you want to remain calm, right? And that's the difference between an effective communicator and a less effective communicator. You want to be stress-free as you're sharing your conversation. So this is really, really, really important. Number 5 is inform. If you're building your network marketing company and you have absolutely no idea what the product does because you're just really interested in the opportunity and the money, that will also be an issue. So be informed. And I don't mean that you need to be a scientist, a doctor, or a specialist in whatever product you might be talking about, but you should understand the benefits, right? What are the benefits of what it is that you are talking about? So be informed on what you are talking about, but in the same time, summarize the information. Don't be too much overwhelming with too much data.
Yeah, even in the mentorship process, is to come into the conversation knowing exactly where you're going with all of that, and have the information in front of you, and where you need to guide people. Of course, the next one, again, I'm all about that visual stuff. I'm a visual learner, by the way, and you probably already picked that up if you're very good at connecting with people. So number 6 is to be visual. It's the storytelling that attracts people to want to even listen, whether it's, you're dealing with a challenge, or you're, sharing some information with people or guiding people. It's good to have those, to get them to see the bigger picture through storytelling. And what do they say? A picture is 1,000 words. So yeah, it's very important to have that visual.
Yeah, and the thing is, remember, according to studies, in fact, humans have a tendency to enhance their ability to remember pictures for an extended period of time. So most people are visual. So when you're presenting and sharing, if there's a lot of text and a lot of words, you're not going to have as much of an impact than if you're, for example, your presentation more of a Zen, right? You have like images in a couple words, maybe that to trigger some thoughts in reference to what you're talking about. But that's really, really important. Number 7, this is really, really important, is to show empathy, right? Showing empathy means that you are understanding. You understand where they are, what's going on, right? And then from there, remember earlier we talked about paying attention, to be an attentive listener. Well, that's when it really comes into practice. Because if you intended some of the things that they told you, and you paid attention on some of the things they shared with you, you're in a much better position to be attentive to their needs and be more understanding when it comes to empathy. This is going to be, again, a huge impact as you are communicating your message.
If you want to build strong relationships, that is a very, very important one. And of course, completeness is the next one, number 8, is again, Chris talked about it, not going off in tangent and going another direction. It's to have your key points in front of you, what you need to communicate, and to make sure you complete the message.
And that's what we're talking about, is you want to complete your thoughts. And that's what, again, is the difference between someone who's a great communicator and someone's not so great communicating, is people can follow your conversation from beginning to end. And give also, reference, feedback. It's important as you are sharing with people, right? You want to encourage the person. You want to, share some some similarity. You know, there's an expression that we use in network marketing: feel, fail, found. I know how you feel. I used to feel that way, but here's what I found. And at that point, people again will be in a position to relate because they feel that you can relate to them. That is really, really, really important when you talk about give and receive feedback. Absolutely critical.
And finally, the last one is number 10, is to utilize your time in a sensible manner. Your time is valuable as a leader, and what you do with your time matters. Who you spend your time with matters. You spend your time with people who want to grow, who are interested in building the business, and set timers. I like to set a time limit, and I let them know how much time we have, and we go right into the important elements, especially when it comes to mentorship. And so this is how we manage to control our time, and everybody's happy. And I think people really appreciate the time that you spend with them and giving them direction.
So, folks, in conclusion, on the above specific 10 skills of effective communication, the key is to develop these skills. And if you do, it could have a very significant impact into the short term and long term of your business.